Hello, I'd like to welcome everybody to the town hall for the All Financial Group, the first one in the month of November. So we go from there. I got some things to chat about once it's my turn. So we will go ahead and kick this off. Will, would you like to start us today?
So yeah, thank you so much, Steve. Today, I am going to talk in the town hall about rates are turning, rates are moving. What does that mean for our audience, our clients, prospects, or people that actually uh, listen or hear about us, right? So last week, Treasury actually cut some rates right now. Today, we heard that there will be a quarterly refunding plan. They're trying to figure out how much long-term government debt is going to be sold. So what that does mean for you, right? For our actual audience that deal with things like CDs, T-bills, bond ladders, annuities, income in general. Remind you that one of the most important pillars of retirement is your income. So we have a lot of assets that provide us this income. So these rates are going to be affecting these assets. So what can we do, right? If things are lowering down, rates are lowering down, what is our exit or our exit plan out of it? So the first thing is your cash bucket. We have a lot of clients, a lot of people, whenever they come to a first appointment and we talk about the pillars of retirement, they do have a lot of cash in different type of accounts, savings accounts, money market, CDs. And it looks like they felt so comfortable with that that they just looking or they just want to stay in those types of vehicles, right? We see CDs are going between 3 to 4%, money markets too, but these interest rates, these cuts in interest rates, they will eventually lowering down the rates for your CDs and money markets. So this is not going to last forever. So then the question will be, is like, what I am going to do with the cash in these savings accounts, CDs, if the rates are going to go down. Remember, inflation goes every single year, goes up. So you leaving your money in savings accounts, in checking accounts, and leave it there for years, which I saw a lot of situations with prospects or other clients, you actually losing value. Your money's losing value. Why? Because money supposed to be exchangeable. Money is not a asset that you hold and goes up in value. So what is the plan after this? What is the plans if CDs are not going to be with good rates? What's going to be the plan when money markets go back to 0.05? So that's whenever you come to the office, you talk to us, what other solutions we have around there. Remember, besides the cash, now we're talking in the income plans that you have. Some of you have um, annuities. Other ones, you're depending of the dividends. You're depending of bonds, right? So if the rates are going to change, we need to know exactly what is going to be our next plan of income. So that's whenever we come, we analyze, we look at exactly how much these assets are going to provide you this guaranteed income, or how much of your money of assets do you need to actually provide this income, this desired income that you want every single month. Remember, we do not want you to change your lifestyle. We don't want you to, if you're spending $5,000 and you're expecting $5,000 of income, because your income may reduce, may get affected, you will say, okay, that's fine. If my income will reduce from 5,000 to 4,000, my bonds are now going to provide me that amount of money, that'll be fine. I think I can survive. We do not want that. You don't want to change your lifestyle. The whole idea of retirement, the whole idea of planning is for you to continue your lifestyle and enjoy your retirement. So now, a lot of plans, they have different type of vehicles. Every single plan is not the same as other people, right? We always tailor something specific for you. So remember, if you want guaranteed income, probably it's time for you to start looking at different options and see and talking with us or talking with the person or like advisor that helps you, that probably annuities will be something that will get affected. And if you need the guaranteed income, probably the time to talk about that, it's now. So that's what I wanted to talk today about the rates changing. So it's a little faster than usual, but it's something that is affecting us a lot, and it will be affecting us in the next few months. Just in the last 2 months, we have been seeing rates being cut. So we're expecting more cuts, but remember, it's all about the data. It's all about how the market, how people will react against that. So for right now, just we need to be prepared. We need to be communicating with our advisors, be communicating with us to be able to say and see if the plan that we're setting up, or the plan that you're thinking to do, is still will use the assets that are available right now. So that's all I have for today. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Will. And then we go out. Now let's go ahead and jump over to Tracy real quick.
Good afternoon. I'm Tracey Richardson. Today, I just kind of wanted to briefly touch base on why your financial plan is more than just the investments. We see a lot of potential new clients that come in and they just want to focus on the portfolio piece. But when you think about your financial planning, they picture just the stocks, bonds, and returns. But what you're really wanting to focus on is your financial life is just much bigger than just that individual portfolio. You want to be successful in planning and looking at the entire picture, just not one piece. A lot of people, when we kind of sit down and start reviewing kind of what their goals are, they start to realize that the full financial picture actually includes a lot more information and a lot more detail than just what are my stocks, bonds, or investments within specific accounts. There is, when you're working with an advisor, you're going to look at that cash flow and budgeting, because you want to understand where your money's coming from or where is it going. Debt management is a huge piece of it, making sure you've got loans and credit, under control. You also, the tax planning piece, which is a very large piece to looking at your overall financial plan. We want to minimize taxes now and in retirement. The risk management piece is part of that portfolio piece, but also it does include, insurance for, your health or life or disability, property. The other piece that we look at is the estate planning. That's also an intricate part of your portfolio, making sure assets are titled properly, accounts have beneficiaries. Do you have a will, a trust? What are those designations to make sure your accounts are registered properly and they're going to pass correctly to your heirs? Retirement income strategies, as Will said, we're going to look at various pieces of your portfolio, and does that make sense? But how you turn that income strategy is how we're going to turn that savings into a paycheck when you do retire, and making sure that paycheck does continue throughout retirement. So the entire financial picture is really important, and it's good to look on why that matters. Investments alone don't just guarantee financial security. We don't want to ignore the taxes, and have potential, maybe lose thousands because we weren't being tax conscious. You don't want to overlook any insurance planning needs that could derail a plan. You want to look at, it's if you don't plan for the income retirement, you might not outlive your money, which is an important piece that we hear most in planning is, I want to make sure I have enough money, but also, making sure that income streams and then I don't run out of money. So it does matter in looking at all of those aspects. So I recommend at least once a year, hopefully more. You're always taking a look at that. Any major life changes, marriages, retirement, selling a business, anything that could affect any of those accounts and investments, or your entire financial picture. As of right now, markets are at, all-time highs, near all-time highs, and it's a great time to check in, check your allocations, rebalance, make sure your risk levels matches your goals. We want to make sure that, everything is, efficient as possible to optimize, your full retirement capacity, and making sure things, are in the right places. So make sure you're touching base with your advisors, make sure that they're, coordinating the investments, the taxes, the insurance, the estate planning, make sure that so everything is working together. The goal isn't just the growth, it's the confidence and, the clarity to make sure that you're on the right path. So just make sure you're touching base and you have your complete picture and you plan for a strong future.
Thank you very much, Tracy. I'm gonna go off on a little different tangent today. I did complete the New York Marathon, and I have to look at it, I've been around the sun a few more times than I have the last time I did it, which was in 2018. And I'm gonna say if anybody out there is a runner and you do a marathon, do New York. It was the most amazing event and experience I've ever done. The number of people, I bet, they say that, there's going to be 6 million people on the route for the marathon. Now, I didn't count them all, but there were 60,000 runners. And I know the people on the streets had us outnumbered. So we go from there. So, I mean, you went from one borough to the other, people 3 to 5 deep, I couldn't believe when my son sent me a picture and it's got me in it. And we're like at the 8 mile mark. I said, Matt, how did you pick me out? He goes, Dad, you're the biggest guy out there. You've lost weight, but you're still 6 foot tall, about 200 pounds. So most of those people that you were running with were a lot smaller than you were. So it went from there with it. The event, they do everything right with the exception of 60,000 runners. I mean, I got to get on a bus at about, well, I had to leave the hotel at 5 o'clock in the morning to get on a bus at 5:45, go to Staten Island, and I didn't start running until almost noon. So it was a long day without meals. With doing the events for 29029, I look at those as eating and drinking events with a lot of walking in between it. And then with the marathon, not knowing what I was going to happen, that I had dinner like at 6 o'clock the night before. And then I didn't really eat a full meal until almost 7 o'clock on Sunday after it was over. And I think that's one of the things as I start to look, how do I combine those two things together? I had the training, I had the guide, I had the person, I'm doing the runs and I'm feeling great. But I didn't have that person that had been to that marathon before that could have said, Steve, don't take the early bus over. Take the ferry over there. Get around 10:30. You're not starting till noon anyway. So I didn't have that extra person to help walk me through those things I didn't know. And I think that's the same thing that we hit quite a bit in financial planning. A lot of people out there are good at just buying and selling stocks, accumulating assets. But then you talk to those same people and you say, okay, now I'm done saving assets. I'm ready to start spending them down. How do I do that? And I think that's the most important thing. And most people don't know how to do it. Why? We just don't have the experience to do it. And that's where I believe it's important to have somebody that can assist you. Because the fear is the same with almost everybody. I don't want to run out of assets. I don't want to be a burden to somebody else. And those are the things that we do when we talk about financial planning versus just investment advice, which what Tracey talked about just a minute ago. Just don't worry about how you're going to get your income. We'll just make you a lot of money and you can take some out every year. And I think that the other part of it is how much could we safely take out? As I say, one of the hardest things that happens when we're financial advising is somebody comes across from us and their children are sitting there and they go, I can't believe mom and dad had this much money. Why didn't they do more? And I think that's part of our job too, to assist you in what you can spend so that you're comfortable doing it. And also be that person, if you get spending a little bit too much, it might be time to say, let's bring that down just a little bit. And to me, that's what I believe financial planning is so important. Give me the plan, show me how things work. Then we'll get the products to fit to go with it. Will talked about a lot of annuities. Interest rates are high. They're paying pretty good right now. Everybody wants interest rates to come down except for seniors. Why do seniors want to stay up? CD rates are higher. Money market rates are higher. Annuities, I can get more bang for my buck if I'm buying an income rider, and I get higher spreads and caps if I'm doing something just for protected growth. But the rest of the population are children that are buying houses, cars, and things like that and have debt involved with it. It's very difficult for them when those interest rates are high. So it depends on which part you're with. And that's where I believe it's very, very, very important to have somebody walk with you during that time frame. Now, I know most of this is going to clients, and we're those ones that can go with it. Our practice has expanded greatly because of the referral of family and friends. Who do you know that might need to hear that message? Just forward this on to them. Send them the email. Invite them to one of our dinner presentations. Come with them. That's why we do them, because it's an area that is not real. Okay, I'm going to introduce you to this guy. You got to go talk to him. He's going to ask you. No, we can meet each other in a restaurant and they can get a better idea of how we think by listening to a presentation. So, what are some of those events that will be coming up? Wicked, the second part of the movie, will be there. I want to thank my daughter Megan for coming into Manhattan on Saturday of last week, and I got to actually see Wicked on Broadway. I've seen it at the Fox Theater a couple times, but that is on December the 6th. That is the second showing. They did part 1 last year. They're doing part 2 this year. So if you want to make reservations for that, please call the office. We have 2 taxes and retirement events left this year. November the 11th, here in the presentation room at the office. We're going to come in for that. My guess is Tracey will probably be presenting for that one. And then we're going to let her try again on December the 10th in the presentation room. So we're bringing that in there. We're going to start moving things around a little bit and have other people other than just me do it. Now, I want to remind everybody, if Tracey and Will are doing it, that doesn't mean I'm not sitting there with them. So we'll all be there together. And I just want to say thank you all for referring families and friends. Invite them to these events because I think that's very, very important. Okay, let me do this. That way Chris has got us at the end. Let me stop the